You know the feeling. You're scrolling through your phone, maybe Instagram, maybe Facebook,
Oh, yeah. Definitely know it.
and there it is. That perfect vacation photo. Someone announces a big promotion, they look amazing effortlessly, or maybe just, their life seems so put together.
The highlight reel.
Exactly. And right then you feel that little tightening, that voice that whispers, why aren't I doing that? Or, wow, my life is kind of messy compared to this.
That's the comparison trap right there. Hits you instantly.
And you can almost feel it, like sucking away a bit of your own happiness, right? Your own joy.
It really can. That little moment can just deflate you.
Well, that whole experience, that really common, often kind of painful feeling, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Yeah, it's a big one.
We're doing a deep dive into the psychology behind why we compare ourselves to others. We've got a whole stack of sources here, research papers going way back, some newer stuff on social media's role, and importantly, some practical ideas.
Right. We want to understand the why behind it. Why are we wired this way?
And then how does it actually affect us? The good, the bad. Let's be honest, often the bad.
Especially lately, it feels like.
And most importantly, what can we actually do about it? Like tangible things to stop that negative cycle and maybe find a bit more joy in our own lives on our own terms.
Exactly. Because it's such a universal thing. Everyone listening has felt this. And just understanding the mechanics, understanding how the modern world cranks it up to 11, that's step one to getting a handle on it.
We're always processing stuff about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And comparison is just one tool the brain uses.
It's fundamental. But like you said, the context and the direction of that comparison, that makes all the difference.
Okay. So think of this deep dive as your guide.
Yeah.
We want to arm you with the insights from all this stuff we've looked at, help you spot comparison when it's happening, see its power.
And get some real strategies.
Yeah, practical ways to navigate it more mindfully. The goal here, spend less energy measuring up against someone else's polished story.
Their highlight reel.
And more time actually living and appreciating your own unique life, your own story.
Okay, let's unpack this thing. It's powerful and sometimes, pretty insidious.
Definitely.
So first off, this isn't some new problem invented by Instagram, right? This comparing ourselves thing. It goes way back.
Oh, absolutely not new.
Yeah.
You're spot on. The main idea we look to here is called social comparison theory. It was actually first properly laid out by a psychologist named Leon Festinger way back in 1954.
Okay, Festinger, 1954. So pre-internet by a long shot.
A very long shot. His core idea was pretty simple but profound. We figure out our own worth, our abilities, our opinions, basically how we stack up
Why?
by comparing ourselves to other people.
So when there's no, objective test score or official ranking.
Exactly. When things are ambiguous or there's no clear external measure, we look sideways, we look at others to gauge where we stand.
So we need a reference. Precisely. We don't live in bubbles. We're constantly soaking up information about our environment, and that includes info about other people. Comparison is just a basic mechanism for self-evaluation, for understanding ourselves in relation to the world.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like one of the sources used that analogy, right? How do you know something's hot if you've never felt cold?
Exactly that. You need the contrast, the reference point. Comparison gives us that reference for our skills, our views, even how we're feeling.
So it's not inherently bad then. It's just baked in. A feature, not a bug.
That's a great way to put it. It is a feature. It serves a purpose. The problems creep in depending on who we compare ourselves to, what we focus on, and crucially, how we interpret the difference.
The interpretation, that's key.
It really is. Think about that example. The basketball player, Darko Milicic. Remember him?
Vaguely. He was drafted really high, right, in that amazing draft class with LeBron.
Exactly. 2003 NBA draft. Number 2 pick, right after LeBron James. Ahead of future Hall of Famers like Carmelo Anthony, Dwyane Wade, Chris Bosh. The expectations were astronomical.
Yeah, huge hype. And he didn't quite pan out like those guys.
Right. So if your comparison group, your reference point is that group, LeBron, Melo, Wade, Bosh, some of the best ever, then compared to them, Darko's career looks like a disappointment. A flop even, given where he was drafted.
Measured against those legends, it seems underwhelming.
What if you totally shift the comparison? What if you compare him not to those other superstars, but to, everyone else on the planet?
Okay.
How many people out of billions can even play basketball well enough to get drafted into the NBA, the best league in the world?
Vanishingly small number, tiny fraction of a percent.
Exactly. It's almost zero. So by that standard, just making it to the NBA, having a career that lasted several years, earning millions, makes him incredibly, wildly successful compared to 99.999% of humanity.
Wow, okay. Same guy, same career stats, but depending on who you compare him to, the conclusion is completely different. Success or failure is totally relative.
It absolutely highlights how subjective it is. And this brings us to the two main flavors or directions of social comparison that researchers talk about. First, there's upward comparison.
Okay, upward. That sounds like looking at people above you somehow.
Precisely. That's the one we usually think of when we talk about comparison stealing our joy. It's comparing yourself to someone you see as better off in some way you care about.
More money, better job, nicer car.
Yep. More success. Maybe they seem happier in their relationship. Maybe they're fitter or smarter. Whatever trait or achievement you value.
The classic grass is greener scenario.
Right. An upward comparison. It's tricky. It's got this dual nature. On the one hand, it can actually be good for you.
How so?
Well, it can be inspiring. Seeing someone achieve something you want can show you it's possible. It can light a fire under you, motivate you to work harder, learn from them. You might think, okay, they did it. Maybe I can too. What steps did they take?
So it can fuel self-improvement.
It absolutely can. But,
Yeah.
and this is the big but, the side that causes the pain. Upward comparison very often leads to feeling bad about yourself.
Yeah, that's the feeling I recognize.
If the other person's success feels totally out of reach, or if you only see their polished end result and not the messy journey, it triggers feelings of inadequacy, frustration, envy. Your self-esteem takes a hit.
It just highlights the gap between you and them.
Exactly. It screams, you're not good enough, you're falling behind. That's the feeling that gets you when you're scrolling online. Wow, they're doing that. I'm nowhere near.
You must be doing something wrong. Yeah.
It makes you feel like you're perpetually playing catch up and never quite making it. So that's upward. The other direction is downward comparison.
Okay, so looking at people who seem worse off.
Yes. Comparing yourself to someone you perceive as having less or facing bigger challenges or just generally not doing as well as you are in some area.
And how does it usually make people feel?
Generally, the psychological effect is more positive, at least in terms of immediate self-esteem. It can give you a boost. It provides perspective.
Like, okay, things are tough for me, but maybe not as tough as for that person.
Right. It can make you feel a bit better about your own situation, maybe more grateful for what you do have. In really difficult times, it can be a coping mechanism fostering resilience by highlighting your relative strengths or resources.
Kind of way to count your blessings.
It can be. And the sources suggest it's a valid way to cope sometimes. However, there's a big caveat here too. It's about the spirit in which you do it.
Meaning?
Well, if you're doing downward comparison just to feel superior or to gloat, like, I'm doing better than them, that's pretty unhealthy. It can kill your empathy, make you complacent.
Right, not very admirable.
No. The healthier way, the way that aligns more with things like gratitude research, is to use it to gain perspective and appreciation for your own life while still feeling empathy and compassion for the other person.
So feeling grateful for what you have, not feeling good because someone else is struggling.
Yeah.
Maintain kindness.
Exactly. Perspective, not superiority. So, okay, we have these types of comparison, but why do we do it at all? What's the fundamental drive? Beyond just figuring out where we stand.
Yeah. What's the underlying reason?
The sources point to a few core motivations. First, as Fessinger said, is self-evaluation. We need to gauge our abilities, our opinions. Am I doing okay in this job compared to my peers? Do my friends share my views on this?
Just figuring out the landscape where you fit.
Yep. Second big one is self-improvement. This is where upward comparison can be healthy. We look at people we admire, people who have skills we want.
And we try to learn from them, use them as a benchmark.
Exactly. We see what's possible and use it to motivate our own growth. And the third one is validation.
Validation, like checking if we're on the right track.
Yeah. We look to see if others are making similar choices or if our achievements are recognized and valued by our group. It's seeking that external confirmation that says, okay, what you're doing makes sense, or yeah, that accomplishment is worthwhile.
Okay, so self-evaluation, self-improvement, validation. Pretty fundamental human needs. It's woven into how we operate.
Deeply.
But if it's so natural serving these purposes, why does it feel like such a massive problem now? It feels like it's gone into overdrive and mostly in a negative way.
And that leads us directly, inevitably, to the giant amplifier in the room.
Let me guess. Social media.
You got it. Social media. It hasn't created social comparison, but it has dramatically, fundamentally changed the game.
How so? What's different now?
Well, think about it. Pre-internet, who did you mostly compare yourself to? Your neighbors, your colleagues, maybe people in your extended family or community? People you actually saw, warts and all.
Right, a relatively limited pool, and you saw their real lives, mostly.
Exactly. Now, we are exposed to a literally endless stream of people from all over the world. And crucially, we're not seeing their real lives. We're seeing
The highlight reel. You keep saying that, and it's so true.
It is. Platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, they are designed for showcasing the peaks. The amazing vacations, the promotions, the perfect-looking relationships, the filtered selfies where everyone looks flawless. The career wins.
You see the shiny finished product, none of the sweat, the tears, the failures, the boring bits in between.
Precisely. You don't see the hours of practice, the rejections, the fight they had right before that smiling photo, the crippling self-doubt they feel just like everyone else. And this constant exposure to what some sources call these curated realities, it creates this immense pressure.
Pressure to be perfect.
Exactly. Perfectionism pressure. It sets this impossibly high, totally artificial standard for what a good life or a successful person looks like.
And compared to that constant stream of perfect, your own normal, messy, real life suddenly feels lacking, inadequate.
Bingo. It fuels these unrealistic expectations about what your life should look like. And that leads directly to more stress, more anxiety, and just this deep dissatisfaction with your own perfectly okay, authentic life. It's like watching nonstop movie trailers and wondering why your Tuesday afternoon isn't as exciting.
Yeah. That gap between your reality and their curated real, that's where the joy just evaporates.
That's a perfect way to phrase it. And we have research backing this up quite strongly now. There was one study mentioned focusing on young people in Malaysia.
Okay. What do they find?
Their findings were pretty stark, actually. They found that social comparison, specifically on social media, was the strongest negative predictor of self-esteem among the youth they studied.
Wow. Stronger than other factors, like just how much time they spend online.
Yes,
Yeah.
according to that particular study. Stronger even than FOMO, the fear of missing out, which is also linked, and we should talk about that too. But this study used specific psychological scales to measure comparison tendencies and self-esteem. And the link was clear and powerful. The more these young people were actively comparing themselves to others online, the lower their self-esteem tended to be.
So it's not just being on the platform, it's the act of measuring yourself against what you see there that really does the damage to how you feel about yourself.
That's what that research strongly suggests. The mental habit of contrasting your own unedited life with someone else's carefully polished online persona, that seems particularly corrosive, which ties right into FOMO.
Right, FOMO. Fear of missing out. That feels like such a modern anxiety. What exactly is it and how does it connect here?
FOMO is basically that nagging feeling, that anxiety that other people are out there having rewarding, exciting experiences, and you're not part of it.
Like seeing friends post pictures from a party you weren't invited to or an amazing trip while you're stuck at home working.
Exactly that pang. Why am I missing out? Their life looks so much more fun than mine right now. And it's directly linked to comparison because it's triggered by seeing what others are doing, especially on social media.
You compare their exciting posts to your current, maybe mundane reality.
Precisely. And research confirms FOMO also tanks self-esteem. Feeling like you're constantly on the outside looking in reinforces that narrative that your own life is somehow less valuable or interesting.
And it fuels that awful cycle, right? You feel FOMO, feel bad, so you check social media more often to see what you're missing.
Which exposes you to more curated posts.
Which makes you feel more inadequate or left out.
It's a self-perpetuating loop. You end up compulsively monitoring others out of anxiety, not genuine connection, and it just digs the hole deeper.
You mentioned a difference in how we use social media too. Passive versus active.
Yes, that's a really important distinction that comes up in the sources. Passive use is just scrolling, looking at feeds, watching stories, absorbing content without really interacting.
Just lurking, basically.
Pretty much. Whereas active use is engaging, liking, commenting, posting your own stuff, sending messages, participating in groups.
Okay, viewer versus participant, and one is worse for comparison.
The research suggests that passive scrolling is particularly damaging when it comes to negative social comparison. When you're just passively consuming, you're mainlining those highlight reels without the context of real interaction.
Your brain is just focused on the them versus me.
Exactly. It makes it easier for those idealized images to trigger upward comparisons, which then fuels feelings of envy, inadequacy, all that stuff we talked about.
So mindlessly flicking through Instagram is potentially more harmful, comparison-wise, than actually chatting with a friend on there.
That's what the studies linking passive use to envy and lower well-being suggest. active engagement, while it can have its own issues like seeking validation, at least involves doing something, connecting, expressing yourself. It's less purely focused on measuring yourself against others' curated lives.
Okay, so this natural human tendency to compare, it's been supercharged by social media's curated reality, leading to constant upward comparisons, triggering FOMO, especially when we just passively scroll. It sounds like a recipe for feeling pretty rubbish.
It can be a significant drain on mental health, absolutely.
So let's get specific. How exactly does this whole mechanism steal your joy, as the title says? What are the concrete negative effects?
The impact is broad, really touching multiple areas of our well-being. When unhealthy comparison becomes a habit, it actively chips away at our sense of self and just makes life feel less satisfying.
Okay, what's the number one casualty?
Probably the most direct hit is to self-esteem and self-worth. If you're constantly doing upward comparisons, always measuring yourself against people who seem to be doing better, the message you internalize is, I'm not enough.
Oof, yeah.
Your own achievements, your looks, your life situation, they start to feel inadequate when viewed through that comparative lens. And when your self-worth gets tangled up with how you stack up against these external, often unrealistic benchmarks.
You basically hand over control of how you feel about yourself to algorithms and strangers'
Right,
posts.
perfectly put. You outsource your validation. And over time, that can really mess with your identity. Instead of knowing and valuing what's truly important to you based on your own inner compass.
Yeah.
Start chasing what looks good online, trying to match their values or goals.
Exactly. You might start adopting others' goals or values, even changing how you present yourself, just desperately trying to feel like you measure up, to feel worthy.
Trying to fit a mold that isn't even yours, that sounds exhausting.
It is. And this chronic feeling of inadequacy doesn't just stay in your head, it contributes significantly to increased psychological distress.
Like anxiety and depression.
Yes. Sources consistently link heavy social media use driven by comparison and envy to higher rates of anxiety, more depressive symptoms, sometimes even hostility or resentment, and some research even points to somatization.
Somatization, what's that?
That's when your psychological stress actually shows up as physical symptoms, headaches, fatigue, stomach problems, things that don't have a clear medical cause. The mental strain of constantly comparing takes a physical toll.
Wow. So feeling less than online could actually give you a headache.
It absolutely can. Stress manifests physically. That big review study we mentioned specifically flagged social comparison and envy as key psychological pathways linking social media use to depressive symptoms. More comparing, more envy, higher risk of depression.
And you mentioned imposter syndrome before. How does comparison feed into that? They feel related, but maybe slightly different.
They are definitely related but distinct. It's a really important connection. So remember, imposter syndrome is that internal feeling, right? That deep-seated fear that you're a fraud, that you don't deserve your success, that you'll be found out, even when there's plenty of evidence you're competent.
Yeah, that feeling like you just got lucky and everyone else is genuinely skilled, but you're faking it.
Exactly. Now, social comparison is primarily external, looking at others, but that external act can massively trigger or worsen the internal feeling of being an imposter.
How does that work?
Well, imagine you're already feeling a bit like an imposter. Then you see someone online or even a colleague who seems effortlessly brilliant. They nail a presentation, get accolades, seem to just know everything.
Okay.
Your comparison brain kicks in. Wow, look how easy that was for them. Look how successful they are. And that external observation immediately feeds the internal imposter voice. See? They're the real deal. My own success must have been a fluke. I struggled so much more. I'm clearly not as capable. I don't belong here.
Ah. So their perceived perfection makes your own normal struggles feel like proof that you're the fake one.
Precisely. The external comparison becomes evidence for the internal fear. It's a nasty feedback loop. What's fascinating is how just looking outward can intensify such a deep internal anxiety about your own worth.
It really shows how tied together our inner world and outer observations are.
Absolutely. Our interpretations shape everything.
What about motivation? We said upward comparison can motivate, but does it usually?
It's a double-edged sword. Yes, sometimes it inspires, but often, especially if the comparison feels relentless or the gap seems huge, it leads to decreased motivation.
If you're constantly comparing yourself to a standard that feels utterly impossible to reach, it can just feel hopeless, deflating. You might think, why even bother trying? I'll never be that good, successful, rich, whatever.
It makes the effort seem pointless. Takes the wind out of your sails.
Exactly. It can lead to paralysis, to giving up on goals you might otherwise have pursued. And the negative hits keep coming. Comparison can also fuel jealousy and resentment, which obviously damages relationships. It drives that unhealthy, exhausting perfectionism we talked about. And it can lead to social anxiety, being afraid to put yourself out there for fear of not measuring up to perceived standards.
Man, it really paints a picture of how comparison, especially amplified like it is today, can be a serious thief of joy. It affects our self-worth, our mood, our motivation, our relationships,
Yeah,
everything.
it's a heavy burden when it gets out of control.
Okay, so the big question then, how do we fight back? How do we reclaim that joy? What are the actual strategies, the tools we can use to break this cycle and start living our own lives more fully?
Right. And this is where the conversation gets really hopeful, because the sources offer a lot of practical, evidence-based approaches. It's not about becoming a robot who never compares. Remember, it's natural. It's about managing it, becoming aware, mitigating the downsides.
It starts with awareness, just noticing.
Absolutely. Mindful social comparison and self-awareness. That is step one, the foundation. You have to tune in. Become an observer of your own mind.
Like catch yourself in the act.
Exactly. Pay attention. When do you start comparing? Is it always when you open Instagram? Is it when you see posts from a specific person? Is it after certain meetings at work? Notice who you compare yourself to. And critically, notice how it makes you feel. That little knot in your stomach, that flicker of envy, that wave of I'm not good enough. Just notice it without judgment at first.
Okay, so just building that recognition muscle. There I go again. Scrolling this feed always makes me feel kind of crummy.
Precisely. Because once you're aware of the triggers and the feeling, you can actually do something about it. Which leads to a very concrete step, especially relevant now. Limit social media exposure.
Makes sense. If that's where the bad comparisons are happening.
Reducing your time there is a direct intervention. This isn't about demonizing social media entirely, but about recognizing its specific impact on you and taking control.
So practical things like unfollowing accounts that consistently make you feel bad, even if you feel like you should follow them.
Absolutely. Curate your feed ruthlessly. Ask yourself, does this account inspire me, connect me, or does it just make me feel inadequate? Be honest. Set time limits, use phone features or apps. Designate specific times for checking, not just mindless scrolling whenever. Try digital detoxes a day, a weekend, whatever, to reset your perspective.
Just reducing the input of those curated realities. Less fuel for the comparison fire.
Exactly. It's often the simplest, most direct first step. But it's not just about stopping things, it's about starting things too, shifting your focus. And a really powerful strategy here is focus on your own journey, comparing yourself to yourself.
Okay. So the only fair comparison is me today versus me yesterday.
That's the idea. It's arguably the only truly productive comparison. Forget keeping up with the Joneses or the curated online Joneses. Your real benchmark is your own progress.
So focus on my own growth curve.
Yes, channel that energy. Instead of measuring yourself against external, often irrelevant metrics, measure your own growth. Set goals that matter to you based on your values, your passions, what you want to improve or achieve, not what Instagram thinks is cool this week.
And celebrate the small wins along the way, even if they don't seem Instagram worthy.
Absolutely crucial. Did you stick to a new habit? Did you learn something new? Did you finally finish that small project? Celebrate that. That's your progress on your path. That's where real satisfaction comes from, not from matching someone else's highlight reel.
Redirecting energy inward toward personal progress. I like that.
It's fundamental and closely related, absolutely vital for building resilience against comparison is cultivating self-compassion.
Self-compassion. Treating yourself kindly, basically.
Yes, but it's a bit more specific. It has three main parts. First, self-kindness, being gentle and understanding with yourself when you suffer or feel inadequate instead of tearing yourself down with criticism.
Okay.
Second, common humanity, recognizing that suffering, failure, feeling inadequate. These are part of being human. Everyone experiences them. You're not alone or uniquely flawed in your struggles.
That sounds like it takes the isolation out of feeling bad.
It does. And third, mindfulness. Holding your painful thoughts and feelings in balanced awareness. Acknowledging them without exaggerating them or getting totally swept away by them.
So when that comparison hits and you feel lousy, instead of beating yourself up, I'm such a loser, you try to think, what?
More like, okay, wow, seeing that made me feel really inadequate and envious. That feels uncomfortable. But you know what? Lots of people feel this way sometimes. It's okay to feel this. I don't need to judge myself for it. I can just be kind to myself right now.
That sounds much healthier. And research backs this up.
Strongly. Remember that Korean study where they deliberately made people feel inferior through comparison tasks?
Yeah.
They found that people who naturally scored high on self-compassion reported significantly less negative emotion afterward compared to those low in self-compassion, even when they felt objectively inferior in the task.
Now, so self-compassion acts like an emotional buffer. It softens the blow of comparison.
Exactly. It's like an emotional shock absorber. It might not stop the initial comparison thought, but it dramatically changes your response to it. It prevents that downward spiral into self-loathing. It helps you acknowledge the sting without letting it define your worth. This is a really key insight.
Building that inner resilience, that's huge.
It's a game changer in how you relate to yourself. Another practice that works almost like an antidote to comparison is gratitude.
Gratitude. Being thankful. How does that help with comparison?
Well, upward comparison often fuels a scarcity mindset focusing on what you lack. Gratitude does the opposite. It deliberately shifts your focus to appreciating what you already have.
Actively looking for the good stuff in your own life.
Yes. Regularly taking a moment, maybe daily, maybe weekly, to think about things you're grateful for. Big things like health or relationships, small things like a sunny day or a good cup of coffee. It trains your brain to scan for abundance, not deficiency.
And there's research on this too, right? Like gratitude journals.
Absolutely. Classic studies by Emmons and McCullough showed people who regularly wrote down things they were grateful for became more optimistic, felt better about their lives, and even reported fewer physical symptoms. Plus, gratitude allows for that healthy downward comparison we talked about, appreciating your own situation with empathy, not superiority.
Gratitude seems like a really powerful tool for just feeling more content, period.
It really is. And you can also work on consciously reframing comparisons when they pop up.
Reframing, like changing how you interpret them.
Exactly. Instead of the automatic thought, wow, they're so successful, I must be a failure. Pause. Can you reframe it? Can you see their success as inspiration? Okay, they achieved that. What can I learn from their approach?
Turning envy into curiosity or motivation.
Precisely. Or maybe just acknowledging it without judgment. Okay, they're doing well in that area. Good for them. And also, importantly, give yourself permission not to be the best at everything. Maybe it's okay to be average or just good enough in some areas. Not everything has to be a competition.
That's a relief. Seriously. The pressure to excel everywhere is exhausting.
It is. And related to downward comparison, again, practice genuine empathy. If you find yourself comparing to someone less fortunate, make sure it's coming from a place of compassion, understanding their struggle, rather than just boosting your own ego. That fosters connection, not division.
Using perspective to connect, maybe even help.
Yes. And another very practical thing, take action. When you feel that comparison urge or you're stuck ruminating on how you don't measure up, get up and do something.
Like what?
Anything productive or meaningful to you. Work on one of your personal goals. Engage in a hobby. Call a friend. Go for a walk. Tidy up. Create something.
Distract yourself productively. Channel the energy.
Exactly. Action breaks the rumination cycle. It shifts your focus from passive observation and negative thought loops to active engagement with your own life. Less time brooding, more time building. And finally, broaden your perspective.
How do you mean?
Actively seek out different experiences, viewpoints, talk to people from different backgrounds, read diverse sources, travel if you can. The wider your understanding of the world and the incredible variety of human lives and definitions of success.
The less likely you are to get fixated on one narrow, idealized version you see online.
Exactly. It provides context, nuance, and realism. It helps you see the bigger picture, making those specific comparisons seem less significant.
See the whole tapestry, not just one shiny thread.
Well put. And we should also briefly touch on cultural context. That Malaysian study reminded us that some cultures might have pressures that amplify comparison, maybe around collective achievement.
Right.
But those same cultures might also offer strong community support or collective values that can act as a buffer against the negative individual impact. It's complex.
Culture plays a role, for sure.
And last but definitely not least, if comparison is really dragging you down, if it's tied up with significant low self-esteem, anxiety, or depression, seek professional help.
Talk to a therapist.
Yes, therapists, especially using approaches like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, have proven tools and techniques to help you understand your thought patterns, challenge the negative ones, build healthier coping mechanisms, and really break free from that destructive cycle. There's no shame in getting support.
Okay, that's a really solid list of strategies. It feels like there are genuinely things we can do, coming at it from different angles, managing the outside triggers, and strengthening our inner responses.
Absolutely. The core message from looking at all this is that you're not just a passive victim of comparison. Yes, it's a natural tendency, but you have agency. You can become aware, understand it, and use these strategies to dial down the negative impact and consciously cultivate more joy and authenticity in your life.
So just to recap this deep dive, we've looked at where social comparison comes from deep in our psychology, Festinger's theory.
Right, for self-evaluation, improvement, validation.
How the modern world, especially social media with its highlight reels, has massively amplified the negative side, fueling upward comparisons and things like FOMO.
Making us feel inadequate, stressed, anxious.
We talked about the specific damage it does, lowering self-esteem, increasing distress, even triggering imposter syndrome.
And how it can sap motivation and strain relationships. A real joy thief.
But then, crucially, we explored this whole toolkit of strategies to fight back. Awareness, limiting exposure, focusing on your own journey,
Comparing yourself to your past self.
cultivating that vital self-compassion, practicing gratitude, reframing comparisons, taking action, broadening perspective.
And remembering the power of empathy and seeking help when needed. That finding about self-compassion, acting as a buffer, that's really key. It helps you handle the inevitable comparison moments without letting them crush you.
Yeah, it really emphasizes that it's less about never comparing and more about building that inner resilience, that shock absorber, so it doesn't derail your happiness or your sense of self. This whole deep dive, really, it's about taking back your power.
Exactly. Taking back your energy from measuring against the outside world and putting it into building a life that feels true and good to you.
It's about shifting focus inward, cultivating your life, your values, your progress, your unique circumstances.
That's the heart of it.
Which leads us perfectly into our final thought for you today. When you catch yourself deep in that comparison spiral, really envying someone's life based on what you see online, pause and ask yourself honestly, would you really trade places?
Meaning, would you take on everything that comes with their life? Not just the highlight reel, but the unseen struggles, the pressures, the anxieties, the boring bits, the whole entire package, known and unknown.
Are you truly prepared for that full exchange? And then flip it around.
Consider, what unique strengths do you have? What specific experiences have shaped you? What perspectives, relationships, skills are entirely yours right now in your own life?
Things that are intrinsically valuable precisely because they are part of your unique story. Things that can't really be compared on someone else's scale.
Which raises the big question.
How much freedom, how much inner peace, maybe how much genuine joy could you unlock? If you truly accepted, maybe even celebrated, the incomparable value of your own unique path and just stop trying to measure it against anyone else's.
It's that shift from needing external validation to finding internal appreciation. That's where reclaiming your joy really lies.
Something powerful to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure. Lots to reflect on. Until next time.